you're gonna have to fight, and there's gonna be a lot of. It's not the norm. So to find a clear, compelling why for you, to find the kind of purpose that we're talking about here, it's not the norm, and it's not the norm for a reason. Because you don't drift into it. It's not what's natural around you. The majority of the relationships around you probably, and it's going to cause some tough choices. It's going to cause you to walk a road that you probably wouldn't have picked for yourself, but it's worth the struggle. The world needs your why, and it just but take the sword out. It's going to be a fight. I'll tell you, just kind of leading into it, this is a challenging topic because I just feel like, it's so easy in the church to like have the why, say that we have the why figured out. But I know for me, like if I'm being honest, like that has not been a clear deal. Like I could, obviously talk eloquently, like I know what I'm saying with it, but it's like when you really drill down to it, it's like, it's not. I mean, I grew up, for example, like this job plays on the vanity side because I grew up unpopular. Right. So for me, like wanting to be popular and all the attention you get working at a church in a public role, I'm like, a lot of times that's where my why comes from. So I'm divided. There's a part of me that wants the attention, wants the recognition, the praise, and even though on the surface I'm saying, hey, Jesus this, Jesus that, and behind that I'm like, and it's like, so, I'm like, this is a challenging topic.
Kind of being in the spotlight. Did you always kind of see yourself being the spotlight guy?
I think that deep down there is some wiring that's actually from God towards that, but I think kind of the shadow mission was being rejected growing up, having a negative image of God, so God doesn't, having this idea God doesn't care, and then deciding, okay, well, if I'm going to get approval, I got to get it from people. So then deciding as a kid, whether it's a professional athlete or whatever, I've got to be famous. I need the world to say I'm okay in order for me to feel okay. And I think that I kind of took that false motive hostage into Christianity and basically said, okay, now I just want to reach the world for Jesus. When in reality, I don't know that I actually cared that much about reaching the world for Jesus, I think, honestly, and it's still something I struggle with and have to be honest about, that I think I cared more about getting myself attention for validation's sake. Like even today, a lot of times I'll run stuff by Abbi. Like I was going to post something on Instagram today, and I felt like my motive was a little bit like, hey, look at me. So I showed Abbi. I was like, hey, does this feel like look at me? And she was like, yeah. So I didn't post it. Yeah. But it's like I have to check myself like that because I know.
Was a picture of your abs?
Yeah, it was just. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Dude, Steven has to check himself all the time.
Should I post?
Me, I just go ahead with it, dude. It's like, look at this, guys.
It is about me.
Yes, this is impressive.
And that's where I'm actually, I really don't want to read it, but I've got a book sitting on my bedside. It's like, it was written by one of John Piper's guys, 12 Ways That Your Phone is Changing You. And I know that the instant approval is one of the points in the book. Yeah. And I really don't want to read it. I'm going to at some point though, because it's
one of John Piper guys.
What's that?
One of John Piper's.
Yeah, it's like his. I don't know. He's like a manager for him in Desiring God or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, Desiring God was another book that got recommended to me that I went through on another podcast episode.
What'd you think of the book? I haven't read it.
I thought it was good. It's interesting because the whole concept is a little bit counterintuitive because the whole concept is Christian hedonism. Yeah. So, taking joy as like the supreme good, which isn't I don't disagree with the premise of the book. Actually, I agree with pretty much most of the book. I think it could be taken in the wrong way though. Like if you fed it and then didn't really expand upon it and you just said joy and happiness is the supreme good because as long as you're joyful, God's glorified. Well, some immature people could find joy and happiness temporarily in the wrong things. Right.
Right.
And the book expands upon that, and
Yeah.
I think the book is good. It's very long, actually. It's like twice as long as the other audiobooks
Yeah.
that I listened to.
Yeah.
So overall, I liked it. It in that way, though, because it's a little counterintuitive, it is a little bit of a challenge, though. So you really got
God's glory and our satisfaction are inextricably linked, right? I mean, that's
exactly.
the
That's the premise of the book. Yep. Which I try to take one main point from that, in that if you're doing the Christian thing and you're not liking it, then no one's gonna want to become a Christian.
Oh heck no.
Like, even if you're the guy on stage in your personal life, if you're the world's best pastor, but you're not happy in your personal life, you're kind of missing the mark.
And people are going to see that too. I think a lot of times we think that we're way more effective at faking it than we actually are. It's like people can see it. It's like it's one of those things that people could walk away and hear your content, but there's just going to be something about you that people are like, I don't trust it.
No.
I don't. There's something. It's a vibe thing. There's something about that guy that I can't connect with.
Yeah.
Because people can see.
Yeah.
I think. And I think that
Or they don't see.
Yeah.
For years.
It's one or
Yeah.
the other.
And then the one little thing happens,
Yeah.
and everybody's ooplat about it, and they've been dealing it for 10, 20, 30 years. They've never dealt with it, but nobody saw it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what,
Crazy.
trying to figure out, even in this like podcast book world, like trying to figure out like who are the spiritual fathers, who has, a maturity, or who do I want to be my mentors from a distance, has become a progressively harder decision. I feel like, in my 20s, it felt like, read anything that, I could get my hands on. And not to say you shouldn't read authors you disagree with or, vary up. But when it comes to like the authors or speakers that you're really like, I consider you a mentor from a distance, like deciding that to me has become a harder decision. Because there are some, I used to be, maybe in maturity or whatever, it used to be like I didn't really pick between one author or another. But now it's like, I don't know, deciding like there's something about that, that I want, something about that guy. Like I just feel like even in our church, it's like, where are the real spiritual fathers? Where are the men that, that I can really learn from, the guys I want to parent like? And I feel like they're few and far between, honestly. And if you find somebody like that, you should really, hold on,
latch on.
Latch on,
act
to them.
on it.
Yeah.
Yep, identify those influences. Yeah, I love that idea, especially with, the internet's a support to it, but I feel like we're at an age where there's so much access. There's so much access to good and bad, so much access.
Oh, yeah.
And so it all really just comes down to willpower and desire. And from that access, what are you going to Are you going to access mentors? Are you going to access podcasts? Are you going to access things that build you up? Or are you going to access things that aren't going to build you up? Or are you just going to ignore the fact that there is access to so many good things and things that you can learn from? I mean, one of the things I even told my small group, they may not remember me telling me this, but a year ago when we were kind of dreaming, visioning for the new year, I said, like, we're at an age where you can literally learn anything you want. You can literally learn anything you want. If you want to change careers, which some people my age are even doing, it's pretty fluid. I mean, the very fact that I started a podcast, even though my degree is in engineering, and that's what I continue to do.
Right?
You can literally learn and basically do anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's all out there. It's that discipline though. It's all discipline. And that's why I always applaud Kyle, because I'm always like, everyone wants to do a podcast. Like, who doesn't want to do something with a whole bunch of people come and like go hang out and they talk about stuff, and then like a lot of people want to do that, but very, very few people will keep it up and learn more about it to improve every single time. Like, there's not many people that do that. I mean, look at all the people that are going to start working out this month. It's
the workout resolution, not revolution.
No.
The workout resolution.
That's right. It's like, it's going to be so short, but it's that discipline that you got to keep up. So
yeah, you did that 1 miler a day last year,
2016.
2016.
You were like the only dude that stuck with it.
Yeah.
I should have given you a trophy. Y'all did something wrong on the first day of the year. You didn't establish like some kind of buy-in, like financially. I don't care about the spiritual buy-in or mental. You needed buy-in for this, and the winner takes all.
Dude, the circle
second
I was
place.
around, right? I mean, there was like some people in there. It was like,
yeah,
all right, we're all gonna do this.
Yeah.
And then I called my buddy in Maryland, and then my other buddy in Jackson Hole, and I said, we're doing this together.
Did you say Jackson Hole or Jacksonville?
Jackson Hole.
Okay.
Wyoming.
Where is it? Wyoming.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm like, do this 1 mile a day. So they got through like a month or so. My brother tried to do it too. it was great.
Yeah, I started, and then we had Sammy, and because after I missed a day, I really started to lose motivation for it, and it was like I would have had to run in the hospital parking lot probably, which I could have done. I'm not trying to blame anything.
We had Anna Capri.
Okay, you ran in the hospital parking lot. Dang, dude. Well,
I ran out. She would sleep, and I ran down, and I'd run through the parking lot, do the mile, come back.
1 mile.
Dang, dude.
8 or 10 minutes.
2 broken toes, sprained ankle.
What?
How did you break your toes?
I kicked a door one time on
purpose?
like no.
Okay.
I was stepping
Better
over
than
my
kicking a
dog.
person.
I kicked
Good.
it. Yeah, right. Totally. Twisted my ankle on an acorn running with the kids. I'm just like,
how do you
whole
twist your
bunch-
ankle on an acorn?
Yeah, tell us more.
it was like a big acorn.
We're not that
Stinking
concerned
huge
about the
acorn.
rest of the story. We're now fixated on the acorn.
Acorn. No, no, I'm not an acorn.
Oh, now he's changing
pine
it.
cone.
Oh, now he's changing it.
I'm
Oh,
trying
no,
to
it's a
think, what
pine.
was big?
It was a
I'm
pine
like,
cone.
Whoa, what's a bigger thing than
Yeah.
it's definitely a pine cone.
Wow, that
Rolled over it.
validated you there. It was
It was
definitely a
terrible.
pine cone.
It sucked. No, it was a
It was a boulder rock in
So-
the middle of the parking lot.
And I hear
bowling
you're
ball.
a triathlete. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
he is triathleted.
Well, I was telling some friends that I haven't actually done that many races since college. I've really just competed in 2 races
Yeah.
in the last 4 years. So this year, it's my goal to do 5 races. And I've actually invested time to looking at the races I want to do.
Yeah.
'Cause that's like the first step.
It really is.
You got to find the things you want to do and put it on paper. But I still need to put down the financial buy-in. I still got to pay.
buy-in.
So
keep-
now you compete in them. You're not trying to just finish.
I mean, you can say-
do you go in to win or you?
Man, I haven't got. Well, usually I get a medal because I'm there's only 3 people in my age category anyway who's
Really?
competing. Yeah, I've literally gotten medals because there's the higher races.
Sure.
Usually people in their early 20s aren't competing. So all those young listeners, man, if you want some bling, you don't gotta win. You just gotta sign up and just be there. You can walk the whole race if
There
you
are
need to.
time caps though.
Yeah, there are time
They
caps.
will kick you out.
I did get a 3rd place in a 5K once though. So that was pretty.
What was your time?
Good job, man.
It was not that fast. I've never broken 20-minute 5K. I'm not a speedster. That's why I do endurance.
Yeah.
Got to understand. You got to find from my disability / weakness, I found a strength.
You did.
So I'm not very
Abby wants to
fast.
do the bridge run. I don't know, man.
Come
That many
on.
people.
I'll do it with you guys.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I did it a couple years ago. So the
Yeah.
10K. I told myself though, if I'm ever gonna do it again, I'm gonna dress up as something and I'm gonna have fun with it. Dress up in a leotard,
Yeah.
do something crazy.
Yeah.
Because you go into it and you can still run fairly fast, but you're not gonna break records climbing a stinking bridge. The fastest race, frankly, is flat. I think because you don't really make up your time going downhill.
Yeah.
No. of course not.
Because you can only run so fast going downhill and then you'll fall or die or hurt somebody or downhill is supposed to be tougher on your joints too. So
I want to see those Kenyans, man. I've never actually. Just watching them on TV. I'm it's just amazing to me, just how the long strides and the. I mean, what are they running? What pace are they running it in? I mean, four something, right? I mean,
yeah,
every mile.
430, 450.
yeah, that sounds about right.
I forget when
Alright.
they end. It's 8:22 or something.
Yeah, it's
like that.
it's upper 20s.
Yeah.
It's something like that.
Yeah, it's
for 6 miles.
Silly. It's silly.
Yeah,
I mean,
Doesn't make
something
sense.
on
Makes
a
a smile
mile.
and
I mean,
laugh.
that's you're sprinting, right? I mean,
I'm sprinting.
yeah. I mean, that's
They are
They're
sprinting.
frolicking.
They are. No, they're killing it. But that's what you do full time. And they'll do.
The guys who win, they're
4 or 5
professionals.
marathons. Every 2 or 3 months, they'll just do and win 10 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand. I mean, they'll just do.
I mean,
professional
some of that's
running.
got to be body type, though. I'm if you paid me for 1 year and said I'll pay you what you need and you just run, I don't know if
You,
Great segue, Chris. You got to have your why.
Chris, if you had your stinking
You had your why, you'd be able to do it, Chris. You'd
But
be
if
a
you
world
don't-
champion marathoner.
man.
That was a great segue.
Are we ready to?
Yeah.
You might want to
Okay.
close that.
Yeah,
door
we'll-
just
we'll
so
kinda
nobody
rock it.
else rolls in. Do you want me to?
We'll just
We're fine with it.
we'll just
We'll
kind of
just look at him weird. Yeah, we're good.
We'll just give him the mean mugs. So
Yeah.
So Chris Russo, Stephen Popadich, thank you guys for jumping on the show. As far as a quick introduction goes, man, you guys are two killer pastors. I mean that metaphorically. You don't hurt people.
Oh, thank
2
goodness.
killer pastors at Seacoast Church here,
Excellent.
influencing people, but especially young people, because you yourselves are pretty young
I
bucks.
like to
I'd
think
say.
so. I like to
I'm
think
35.
I like to think
What are you,
so.
Chris?
so. I'm a
What-
very young 35. Yeah,
Okay.
very young.
Fresh
I'm a
35 for the
mid-30.
third time. Very mint.
I'm very young too.
Yeah.
That's a great way. Very mint 35. Is
Mint
that how you put it?
35,
I'm gonna
like
use that one day.
Just brought on.
I'm a mint.
Just published. 35-year-old.
First edition. So you guys are just awesome pastors, speaking life into people, speaking life into their potential, their abilities, and you guys do awesome, cool stuff on the side. Like, I want to know why am I not the amazing artist you guys are? How do you do stuff this artistic?
Don't know. We're Chris is creative. I like to dabble in creativity.
You like to dabble. Come on, dude.
We're gonna show off some of your paintings.
Yeah,
Hey,
right.
how long would you say, Stephen, that you've been painting painting on the side, making money for it as well, which is nice. Not necessarily a precursor to being talented, but
Right, yeah. It definitely helps. I've been painting for over 25 years. So, and then just that's my degree. So my degree is in art education. And went to school for painting. So somebody taught me how to do it, but obviously it's part of, you got to do it all the time. And if you don't
YouTube
do
teaches me how to do stuff. these
YouTube,
days.
yeah, YouTube. I just watched Bob Ross, is that the guy?
Oh yeah,
Who's
the
Bob Ross?
happy little trees.
Happy Little Trees?
Yeah.
No,
I literally have no
there's
idea
some
what
really
you're talking
good,
about.
There's some good
Anyway.
stuff on there, but yeah, dude, man, painting's like you've got to establish. Like for me, I don't know if for Chris, but like that's the thing that if everything quit, like everything shut down, I could go and paint, and it'd be totally fun.
Dude, I just have zero. I
Totally
don't see
fine.
things in pictures. Like I could try to like draw something. It's just like there's just no connection there. I hate it.
But that's what a lot of people say. Like, oh, I can't, because they're telling me from that statement, you're saying I can't draw something that looks like something else. But that's not art. Like that's not
Okay.
painting.
Okay.
Like that's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you don't have to make it look like something else to actually produce something.
Yeah.
Cool.
Abstract art, baby. Me and Chris, we're going into abstract art.
Talking about. Now you got to be
Lay
good
a
at
price
other
tag
stuff,
on it.
But that
We're good at plenty of stuff.
There's just no part of me that would ever want to do it, man. I'm just.
That's what I do.
Well then, so Stephen,
should've
so
done.
today
Yeah.
we're talking about why.
Yeah.
A lot. That's the name of the game. I meant to write contracts actually for you guys to sign, because I want you guys to still be my friends after I've asked you guys why over and over again
and over.
today. Is that, can y'all verbally give me an okay? You'll still be my friend
in.
after.
I'm in. I'm your
It
friend.
may at times appear
Okay.
like I'm that 2-year-old
But why?
who's like, but why? But why? So I'm just saying this up front. Steven, you're good to still be my friend?
I'm your friend,
Okay.
regardless.
All right. Well, I got it on tape, so I'm going to remember that.
Check.
So Chris brings up an interesting point, and I want to know more about your hobbies as well. But you mentioned there's nothing that could get me to like paint on the level that Steven does. So would you say there's a strong why behind why you do what you do, not just the how, because the how is technical and styling and all that, and how is important. As the book that we're going to be talking about, called It Starts With Why by Simon Sinek, if I got that pronunciation correct.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a why that kind of backs your painting?
Yeah, the why derives from. So, right before I say that, a lot of whys derive from circumstances of who you are prior to understanding what your why even is. Right. So it's like your history of who you are, your knowledge, your
key.
education. So like all that's like precursor to understanding, because like you'd say even now, like middle school, your whole life is like trying to figure out who the heck you are. Like you're just like you're looking in
Did
the
you say
mirror.
that ends at middle school? What?
No way.
Well,
I still
like,
have no idea.
Yeah, no, but in middle school, you look at everybody else to pick something else that you
Yeah.
agree with or alike, and it's like, oh my goodness, they can do that. I want to do that. It's like,
Usually it's like the cool factor.
the cool fact.
Their why is to become cool.
Cool,
right?
yeah, but that's all a product of everything they've probably previously gone through as well. So my why behind painting became within understanding of my world. Like, so my ability to think creatively and do all that stuff all derived from, I wasn't really hot at, science and math and all these other topics, something happens when I would go to the art class. I was a pretty quiet kid when I first started. I just go to the class, and I'd paint probably for 3 or 4 hours a day. My teachers would just
3 or 4
let me.
hours.
Yeah. And my teachers just let me. But I somehow could, out of that, was able to articulate everything I was doing. Like I could talk about it. I could imagine things with people. I could teach people how to do it. Like it literally started to like, yeah, sure, there was acceptance there, but there was like, I couldn't have cared less if anyone saw anything. Like I just loved.
That's an interesting point. So at least at the time, and I assume even to this day, it wasn't just so much notoriety or anything like that. Like you didn't necessarily even care did you care if people liked it? To what extent was that?
Yeah, it was yeah, there was every artist wants someone to like their work.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always get that appreciation at the moment. It won't be always immediate, but so that's the tangle between artists, right? So it's the tangle between I need to do something that people enjoy, therefore I will do this. So I do boats right now. Why do I do boats?
Oh, killer
do I just
sailboats,
love boats? Do I love? No, I've never been on a sailboat in my life.
Your main point of art is something you've never even been on.
No, but I admire it, and the symbolic nature of it I admire, and I love. And we're in Charleston, so I'm just like, oh, this is a beautiful mix. I'm just like, come on, let's do boats. Who knows if people will like them? No idea. Start doing boats, people like them. So. But anyway, So it's like all previous to that, my why derived out of an understanding of everything I see, everything I do, every quiet moment in my mind is a painting moment, is a thought about color or why there's 2 different warm lights over here and 2 cold lights this way, and like everything derives out of that.
Huh.
So, but that all happened out of like, wow, that's how I understand the world, and then I started to understand like what I can do with a talent or really a discipline, because everyone can do it. Just a matter of how much time you put into it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm at 10,000 hours, but I know that's like one of the
mastery
of
thumb.
something is 10,000 hours. So it's like, I don't know if I'm there, but I do know, again, like I'm first a painter, then I'm a pastor.
Wow.
I cannot get those. I've done for a while. I tried to be a pastor and not a painter, and try to put that second, and everything was screwed up. Everything.
Wow, dude.
So because I couldn't understand the world through a pastor's eyes, but I can through a painter's eyes, and then do something different. So anyway,
yeah, I've heard you say, because art is so mixed into your pastoral abilities and just you being a pastor, art's very mixed. What would you say is kind of that end result that you want in people? Do you want them to see the world as you see it? Do you want them to get people thinking? Kind of what effect do you want to have?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the superb goal is to just get them thinking differently, because there are enough of communicators and teachers that are able to communicate verbally, some that are great visually, but whenever you look at that's why I love communicating so much, is whenever I get to communicate, like coming up on this thing we got going on January 24th.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's like the idea is like, okay, I could read that scripture, pull amazing couple cool points out of it, and then communicate that just the way it is. And then I'm like, but if I'm going to see it differently, how do I see it? All right, well, I got to put myself there. I got to breathe the air that Jesus was breathing when he healed that. Or I got to, I got to do these things, all right, when I'm communicating. So I want people to see it differently. So when I present it differently on a two-dimensional, either a painting I'm doing on like while I'm communicating, or I'm talking about it like I'm literally like walking through a crowd or whatever it is, that allows them to go, I never thought of it that way before. Like I never imagined I could do that before. Or you know what, I never looked at the stage like that, or whatever. I never did that before. And if I can get that moment in there, that's everything to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
that little oops. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I want to.
I'm glad I know why the boats though. That I thought like you just had like a
You
boat
just thought
fetish.
I had a boat fetish, dude. I've got this thing. I want you to do. He does like crazy, like spoken word poetry stuff. I've got
Yeah, he
these
does.
3 things. I'm doing this coming up, and it's about the rower, the motor, and the sailor. And each of them are metaphors for us.
Rower, motor,
The rower, the motor, the sailor.
the sailor.
The rower rows on his own. To his fatigue, he ends. The motor, right? Preparation, strong, but the motor runs out, right? Floating at sea. But the sailor relies on the wind. So it's like that's why I do sailboats, though. The wind is the current, is the breath that keeps moving the boat. And you don't know exactly always when sometimes it's real reliable. Anyway, I'm going a little far on this, but like, it's just amazing. Like that's why spiritually I do it, but that's why like symbolically I do it. People just like the boats, and I'm like, cool, you like the boats. Well, here's why,
That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Spoken word, go.
No, yeah.
Yeah, well, I want to know, Chris, about your spoken word a little bit more, and maybe we can even throw some of these things on the show here. What got you into spoken word, and maybe even describe what spoken word even is for some of those listeners?
Yeah, spoken word poetry is really just poetry that's written to be performed out loud. So I mean, it's a completely open-ended art form. I mean, pretty much anything goes. I mean, you can do anything you want with it. I think for me, honestly, like I grew up in a pretty, I don't want to overstate it, I grew up in a pretty broken home. So I think for me, I didn't have a lot of role models that were helping to interpret life for me. So like, hey, here's how you should think about this. So I feel, growing up alone, I think that poetry for me has been a way of saying, I guess that there's kind of a connecting point there. Like, hey, here's how I see this. Do you see it like that too? Like almost like wanting, I don't know, I haven't thought about it like this before, but almost like wanting the validation of somebody else. Like, hey, I don't know if this is normal. I don't know if this is weird, but this is just how this looks to me. Because when you don't have somebody kind of framing life for you early on, you're kind of like left to your own devices to figure it out. So I think that I like that. I like the expression of it. And when it connects to somebody, there's kind of a Me Too factor there that's like, that's affirming,
Yeah, totally. Would you say that Me Too factor is a big why for you doing spoken word?
I would say there's definitely a connecting point there. I think the desire to connect. And then also, I think there's also the desire to there's a liberation factor too. Like, man, like, I don't know if y'all feel like this, but man, there's a lot of battle that goes, more battle in life than I thought growing up. Like I pretty much just wanted life to be happy. I want God to just make me happy. I never want a tough ride. Like I just had,
I want more challenges. Nobody ever.
I mean, my view growing up is that
Exactly
I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna be famous.
Yeah.
Life is gonna be easy. Like I just thought that,
Yeah.
and I think that, and honestly, the early Christian voices that I had in my life sort of affirmed that mentality to some extent. I thought like, hey, you should accept Jesus into your life, and everything's gonna be smooth and easy. And I just kind of thought that, like, and there's some part of me that feels weird when it's a struggle. I'm like, I've got to be the only one that's going through this. So for me, part of spoken word is like putting words to the conflict, putting words to this is really hard, and and almost like forcing myself to be honest about this. Like, this is not easy. I think for me, a spoken word poem is effective when it's honest.
Oh yeah.
When it's when it's brutal, when it's candid, and
It's very raw.
Yeah. As opposed to, I think to me, poetry that is as honest as you can be, there's value to it. Because even if your lens is jacked up, and even if you're seeing through the lens of all these different biases and false conclusions, at least you're being honest. At least you're saying it the way it is. And I feel like, unfortunately, within Christianity and outside of Christianity, there's just a lot of faking. And there's a lot of posturing. And I think, unfortunately, in our time of social media, there's all this stuff, man, where it's like
Yeah.
that.
The
you know,
highlight reel.
and I think especially in ministry, the temptation is, I've got it figured out. And if you would just
Yeah.
do what I do, if you
Yeah.
would read the books I read, if you would follow me, you could have it figured out too. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, does anybody have time for that? Like, does anybody, like, I just can't, I don't want to be around those people, and I don't want to be one of them either, you know?
Well, what you get to do too, Chris, is in your poetry is you get to pull the most absurdity inside this like creative language, where it's a juxtaposition of one word, you know, that relates to this moment or thought, and then you rattle that with another juxtaposed, you know, hey, this is where I want to be. This is where I'm not at, but this is where I want to be. And there's something beautiful about the spoken word that he says, but the unspoken word that's between all the quick. You don't have to be too grammatically correct. You know, I mean, you don't have to. There's so much freedom. Like same with art. It's like you have so much freedom. So when he does it, it's like I'm listening, but I'm like, all right, I bet that would have went somewhere if he would have kept talking about that. But he kept me going because he talked about this, you know.
I love that thought, man. What a conundrum. You whipping out that conundrum. It's not just the spoken word, it's the unspoken word.
We just talk about art and poetry. I'm good.
My goal is to stay in y'all's wheelhouse.
Don't tell me anything.
Let you guys shine.
Old Testament, what? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, I definitely can relate to that, and you kill it whenever you do it. You've done it here at church when I've been in attendance in other areas. And I definitely relate in a way because I like heavy music. I like music that's in your face, loud, fast. And most people, you know, I'm not trying to defend the genre. I don't think it needs to be defended, but many people discount it because they say it's just screaming or it's just yelling or it's just this or that. I mean, aside from a lot of the songs just sounding really awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the lyrics for the best heavy metal music are so raw and so real. And like you said, as long as it's authentic, that's what art is. You know, and if people don't like it, they don't like it. But I love that fact that people can have the guts to even scream if they have issues in their life, you know, scream and yell it. And that's, for a lot of these artists, that's their outlet. And they just happen to become successful in it because they're really dang good at it and they can play instruments really dang good. Yeah. It's not just you know, music that's done on a computer, which I like EDM music as well, but it's music that takes talent, takes a lot of hours, takes stories, and takes so much. So I definitely relate in that sense, you know, and I think that's one thing you're going for is that maybe rawness and realness in your spoken word that 99.9% of pastors aren't doing. I don't know how many other pastors are doing the same type of thing you're doing.
Outspoken, real, gentle as a dove but shrewd as a snake. Don't mistake his quiet demeanor as passive or confined. He was just as comfortable with the sinner as with the socially refined. If anyone would come after me, he must take up his cross and die. He must deny himself, place his pride on the shelf, and realize that one must lose the world to gain his soul. His role in the divine story is to lay down his crown in all vain glory, to be a part of a movement that has turned kingdoms upside down. He must allow his pride to drown in an ocean of grace in order to see the divine face of Jesus. Jesus the Lion, Jesus the King, who came to bring revolution. He overturned the tables of those who thought the ancient prophecies were mere fables and words on a page. He shocked the world not only with his love, but also with his rage, as he hated wickedness and loved truth and life. This is our Jesus, our outrageous, untamable, undeniable Jesus. If anyone would come after me, he must hate his life and lay it all down so that he can be a part of an insurrection based on the power of a resurrection that will usher in the new age when sin will be no more. Are you ready? The King stands right outside the door.
I mean, you know, I think that, I mean, the more that you can, I just feel like the more that I can, spoken word, it's like I didn't sit down one day and, you know, say I'm gonna, and it may be with painting with you. I just think that there are some things that have been uniquely wired into you. It's actually interesting. In Ephesians 2, 8 through 10, it says we're God's workmanship created in Christ Jesus to do good works. And that word workmanship in the original language is the word poema. So it's, you know, it's almost like you're God's poetry. Yeah. And for me, it's kind of interesting. Like, I don't even know if I'm a good poet. It's like when I write, it kind of comes out that way. Like I don't even know what I'm doing necessarily, which may not be, which isn't to say that I shouldn't grow when it comes to like the formal poetry, but I'm kind of just like being me. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't sit down and I'm not paying attention. I should probably listen to more poets, but I'm not like trying to be somebody else like that. I feel like it's just a true form of expression for me. Like I almost don't even like it when someone says, oh, he does spoken word. Like I try to just do Chris. Like I was writing that way before I even heard the word spoken word before. And it's like, okay, yeah, I guess I do spoken word. I almost get annoyed when someone says I do spoken word poetry, because I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I guess if you have to categorize it, I guess that's what it is. But it's like, I just try to do me. You know what I'm saying? So
You do you, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, well, and it's just like there's so many pressures, I think, in today's day and age to not do you. You know, it's like, what is it? I mean, that quote, I mean, not to be cliche, but it's that whole deal of most of us are born original but die a copy. And I think that's so true. And I feel especially, I mean, you talk about seeing through the lens of a pastor. I think especially in ministry, I mean, there are so many voices that are saying you should be this and you should be that and you should talk this way and you need to present yourself this way. I think that it's more tempting, and I don't know if this is really true, but it feels more tempting as a pastor to be someone else than I would imagine it might be in other professions, just because I feel constantly, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Like there's still, like, I wish I enjoyed going to church right now more than I do. I enjoy it, but I'll tell you what, one of the highest pressures I feel walking into the church building is all of a sudden I just feel that wave of expectation just settling on me. Like, make sure you're happy. Make sure you're real, but not too real. Make sure you say it this way, but not that way.
Whoa, now, Chris, hey, we getting a little real right now.
Don't make people feel uncomfortable, because it's like, you know, it's like, and man, like that's one thing that I love about art, kind of in the form that you're saying it, is to me, and I don't know if this is true, but I think in the art that to me like really grabs now. Well, it doesn't have to be. I mean, it can be art in all kinds of forms. Is when you just get the impression, like, I don't know if I even connect with that. I don't know if I agree with that. But they're going out on a limb there. Like that's like they could be rejected. Like they're putting themselves out beyond themselves there.
Right.
Like they're taking off the proverbial fig leaf. You know, you talk about, I mean, going back to Genesis.
Proverbial fig leaf.
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture what you're talking about, then I immediately want to unpicture that.
I don't mean they're being naked in the literal sense.
That's literally not what I'm saying.
We do not recommend that.
No, that's too real. But they're putting themselves out beyond themselves, and they're saying, like, hey, like, I think that's what real spoken word is, you know, you're contributing a lot. Like that's what a valid line of poetry is you're putting something out there and without all the filters, and you're saying, like, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but this is how I see it. So, and then allowing somebody else to correct that, or allowing somebody else to challenge that. But I think for me, at least, when I'm writing a poem, there's some part of me that wants to write something that you're just going to connect with and you're going to like. And you know, and it's daring. It's scary to be real.
Oh yeah.
Because what if because if you don't like my mask, I'll just change the mask.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead too far here, but it's like, you know, when you don't have a clear and compelling why, all you're doing is manipulating hows and whats.
That's right.
And it's pretty cowardly, honestly, because if you reject my how or my what, it's not really that big of a deal, because I'll just change the how or the what to make it. To make it a little better, so that you buy what I'm selling, or so that you watch what I'm putting out there. If you reject my why, if you reject something that's that personal to me, that hurts. Right. I don't know if I want to put my why out there, because what if you don't like it? What if you don't accept it? And I think but that is one thing that I like that Sinek does in the book, is that if you have a clear and compelling why, then it's not about competition anymore.
Right.
Because I'm not trying to beat you, because I've got a why that guides my decisions. And it's also, I think there's a vulnerability to starting with why, because it's very personal by its very nature, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He talked about things get less commoditized, if I'm pronouncing that word correctly. Commodities, you're looking for the, you don't care about the why, you don't care about the purpose for the company. Like many cars, they're kind of just commodities. But he talks about, I don't remember if it was Ford or who the automobile dealer was in the book.
GMC.
Was it GMC?
Yeah,
Oh, we're just throwing all kind of ad work for these guys.
Yeah.
Well, he talked about one of the automotive dealers and how people love their cars, as I recall from the book, because they were like for the people. The automotive dealer was for getting an affordable automobile for all people to improve their lives. And then they came out with a line of automobiles that were a lot higher dollar,
right,
to capture more profit.
Yep.
And it didn't go as planned, and because they had strayed from their why. And there were all kind of examples in the book, which I really liked. I mean, he talked about Walmart, how it used to be to improve communities, because it takes communities buying into businesses and businesses investing in communities for us to all thrive together. And then when Sam Walton died, the CEOs didn't carry on that vision. They were all about lowering quality and lowering price to increase profits. He talked about all these companies that they forgot about their why.
Yeah.
I think that's so key, whether you're a company or whether you're a person, which companies are derived from people.
Yep.
It's not like a company has a mind of its own. It all started from a single person's vision and a why, and then other people bought into that, and other people bought into that, and you formed this company.
Right.
And I love that message. You got to stick with your why, just like you're saying. Like you're not just a commodity. People aren't commodities. You're not. Even if you work for an employer, you should still have your why for why you work for that employer, why you do your job, why you're pursuing that degree, even why you may go to that school or whatever it happens to be. And that's where in society, I think we could do a better job with young people of, you should go to this school because it has a great program. You should go to this school because these people are there for a reason. You need to help your friends. You need to help this school. Like schools, for instance, you go there because you live somewhere, or you live in this area, and you're literally told you go to this school. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Well, what happens too, and this is like, if I could debunk one thing of millennials, and I'm kind of we're on the kind of way back end of that.
They kind of push the millennial target back to like 1980.
Now,
they may be moving back to all the way to 70 soon.
now.
I don't know. They're going to keep broadening it.
Yeah, seriously. So the idea is, I think there's huge dilemmas. Anyway, one of them is, I am me, so you better accept it. And it's that idea. Now, it's not a why, okay? That's not a why.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I am, I just don't wake up when I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
I just don't read very well, so, I'm not going to read that. I really just don't like blank. So their conveniences they start to make that the convenience or the adaptation to their norm, whatever it is, comfort, could be profit, could be whatever. Companies do this too. I then will be, this is just who I am, and you better accept me. And I think that right now is like a voice of music, art, you name it, Hollywood. Like this is, right? So it's like they're just looking at it like that. So I was also going to say, as they look at that, then they go into their what, which is job, blank, 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 blank. Well, it doesn't line up with their convenient operated why. Predicated why. Not really who they are or what they've been, nothing of like just literal convenient factors. And when you discover your what, when you discover your why more in depthly of who you are, and which doesn't happen, I don't think any of these individuals knew truly the why until many years down the road, as they were investigating, plugging in, taking out, seeing what, like looking at things and looking inward about themselves, all that kind of stuff. We can talk about it later, but once you discover your why, the what doesn't matter that much. Like
that's key idea.
You know what I mean? You can be, let's bring Walmart. You could be a Walmart employee and have an awesome why and be a superb employee. You don't have to blanket the why of a company on your why based on what you do. If your why is true. Right? That all rhymed. So it's like,
dude, look at that, Chris. It's like Chris Russo's. Y'all are becoming like one super artist right now.
Super artist.
But I'll try to get a little bit of that somehow.
You know what I'm saying though? Because and that's what makes me a painter pastor. That's what makes Chris a creative pastor. It's like, if you keep our why, well, we could both be in sales if we wanted to. We couldn't be engineers. We are not that intelligent.
I don't know. One day you'll probably like get a degree on YouTube or something. Like this is the Hazen-Williams equation, and this is how you use it in pressure water systems. Anyway,
I don't know.
continue.
The what doesn't matter. The what doesn't matter, and that's what people need to hear, because that's what everyone's searching for. Is if I get the what, then it will pull me to a why. It's the wrong way around.
The book, that's incredibly key. The book is not only a book about teaching you why is important, but also the order of operation.
Heck yeah.
Mathematical term right there. Order of operation,
Order
baby.
of operation.
That?
PEMDAS. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's like
No
algebra
idea.
1, parentheses. Anyway, PEMDAS.
Yeah. That's it,
exponents. Okay.
That's so
No, and what I find, I like your point there. It's because, and one thing that I think is a key when it comes to identifying a true why is it's invariably going to be more about what you can give than what you can get. It's
Yes.
selfless. And I got to be honest, when growing up, all I thought about is what I can get from the world. I can get their money, I can get their attention, I can get their recognition. I'm going to just take. All the relationships in my life are the relationships that are useful to me. And if you can't be useful to me, then I don't want to have anything to do with you. And I still, that's an area where I still want to mature a lot more, because when I think about the future, unfortunately, I still think way too much about what I can get than what I can give. And to me, with some of I think the most compelling whys are the ones where it's about how you can enrich the lives of others. And I think another word for why, or I don't know if it's it's a synonym, but one that connects with why is legacy. It's a bigger purpose than you. But unfortunately, I think that our natural drift is towards selfishness. It's towards what we can get. It's towards what we can take, what can make my life better. And I don't know why that is, but it's so counterintuitive sometimes that that I'm going to find life as I give it away. I'm going to find value as I give it. And there need to be more voices out there that say that, because that doesn't come naturally, at least not to me. If I write poetry to get you to like me, or to get you to think I'm a great poet, you can't do it.
Well, a key question there is, when will enough people liking you be enough people?
Never.
Never. If that's your why, like numbers or getting approval. So what then, how can we direct our why in the correct direction, as Simon might be putting it? How can we direct our why? How can we help others, inspire others to find their why? Because inspiring, that was one takeaway I got from the book, that the greatest leaders inspire people, and they don't just inspire people by what they're doing, how they're doing it, how they're successful, how Walmart's successful. We don't really care about that. But if you heard Walmart's core purpose, I don't know what it is today, but in the book he talks about how it started on communities investing in business and business investing in communities, because we all need each other. Buy from us. If you heard that, you'd want to shop at Walmart, because that's a compelling why. So what could we say to those young people that they're having trouble, that they want to find a why, but they're like brainstorming, I don't know where to even start looking for that why?
I don't have this yet in my head, but
stream of consciousness.
I'm an external processor, so whatever. But I would say, number one, without even stepping to there first, if you are, let's say 30 and under, and you're listening to this, your why probably isn't discovered. I just don't think you'll get it yet. I don't think, especially men, because we'll mature mentally it takes us a little bit longer to process.
My wife is still praying.
It just does. I mean, we're just whatever. But and I'm whatever, females, whatever. But most of us have built into survival mode until around that age. Around that age, you're getting married, if not married already. You've got kids, and they're a little bit older. You've found a house, possible job. You've done all of these check boxes of Americana. Now you start to sit back, and that's why, the 30s crisis, what's it called? Midlife crisis. A lot of people.
30s crisis.
I hope
I'm like,
I'm not
what is it
midlife.
I
called?
thought it was supposed to be like a
midlife
50
was like
crisis.
Is it
40s.
40s? I think it's 40s. I think it's 40s. Well, I mean, but seriously
Yeah.
though, the reason is because you have a crisis because you've never ever discovered out of that checked boxes, you never discovered something that was actually you or who you actually could be.
Huh.
And so like you got to that point. That's what everybody on their deathbed, right, says something about the idea of like, what am I leaving behind? The legacy. What am I leaving to other people to see and build upon or whatever? It's not about gaining, right? It's about the amount you give away. I heard this phrase just like literally the other day. It's not about the duration, but the donation of life.
That's good.
So it's not just the amount of life you live, it's how you have given it away. So the first step I would say, before we even say, hey, here's how you do it, number one, you're like 19, 20, 25. I think 25 is one of the most complicated times. But like anything around there, it probably isn't there yet. Like you probably haven't spent enough time sitting at the beach or sitting on a mountain or being alone or writing in a journal. You probably haven't done enough of that and gone, do I really like what I'm doing or do I really love this about whatever? Anyway, I'm sure that could go into steps.
I
but
mean, I don't
Chris,
want
what do
to
you
take,
think?
I'm not going to take this like too theological, but I'm just going to say if we are creation, you just cannot answer the question without the creator. I mean, it's
Sure.
just, I mean, just to, and I think
absolutely
that at least for me, my default, and I'll still say this as a pastor, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but a lot of times for me, my default is still to look within to find the answers that I need. Because there's some part of me that just, the script that I got growing up was if I can't figure it out, if I can't depend on my own resources, then I'm in trouble. So you talk about survivalists. You know, if you grow up in a tough environment where whatever's going on, for me, that's what I learned. So when push comes to shove, if I'm trying to find a why or an answer, I'm going to try to figure it out.
Right.
If you try hard enough, eventually you're going to hit a wall. And when you hit that wall, you're going to go somewhere. You might get depressed. You might decide that there is no why. You might decide that life is purposeless. To me, that's where God comes into the picture, because I have to humble myself. I have to get an answer that I can't come up with on my own, which I hate that, because I think I'm way smarter than I am, and I think I should be able to figure everything out on my own. But I can't.
Every guy in the world.
Well, exactly. But I can't.
Yeah.
But I can't get there.
No.
I can't get there on my own. I've thought about this kind of stuff a ton, and I can't answer it. So I have to. I'll say this: if the answer is out there, and obviously I do believe it is, it's got to come from outside of me, because I just don't have enough insight. I'm asking the wrong question half the time.
Yep.
You know,
You're
it's.
absolutely correct. Like absolutely.
I wish I could just remember this though, because I'm just going to try to figure it out every time, and I'm gonna stress myself out. I'm gonna worry myself to death. I'm gonna get annoyed. I'm gonna read books. I'm gonna listen to podcasts. And sometimes, even as a pastor, my last option is like, maybe I should pray about it.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like, what is wrong? Like, because
Yeah.
functionally, there's this thought that, is God
know
really
enough.
going to answer?
Yep.
Is he really going to come through? Yeah, I can talk, I can wax, or whatever the word is. I can talk eloquently about theology and God's greatness and his purpose and his ability to respond. But when push comes to shove, I may not talk to him about it.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's where you got to start.
Yeah. And I'm sure, Sam Walton didn't go, Lord, show me my why. I'm sure he did. I mean, I don't know if his faith was there or not. I have no idea. But I could probably say that if God had a chance to meet Sam when he died, I bet God could have said something like, hey, did you know I put that gift in you to discover something and to put that into every community in America? I put that in you for a reason. You used it for this, and I see that, but here's why I put it in you. I bet that would be the conversation. Just like all these amazing, whatever. Every time I see someone who's overly successful, I'm like, God gave them a gift. Now they've got to eventually discover why it was given to them. The why was given to them, right? But I 100% agree with you. If you don't know I would say, the creator of who you are, you'll never, not in a million years, discover the true why of who you are. ever.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. So what would be like a step one, you think? Step one, discovering why.
I would definitely say that, a less obvious answer to discovering why is, I would say, honesty, because why you're doing the stuff you're doing right now. I mean, I could say, yeah, go pray. I could say that, and that I think is a phenomenal option. But I think for me, one of the things that I have to be crystal clear on, that is always kind of like a true north for me, is I have to be honest about my current why. Because I think sometimes people play dumb a little bit when it comes to why they're doing the stuff they're currently doing. And if you're not willing to be honest with yourself, it's hard. You're probably not gonna find a why. So for me, like, I have to be honest. Like, there are times where, and I hate admitting this, but there are times where I've done spoken word poetry because I'm like, I want to be famous, and I hate admitting that because it's not altruistic, it's not a noble motive, it's not inspiring. And then go beyond that. Well, why do you want to be famous? Well, because I feel like that would make life complete. Interesting. Sure. Well, because I think that the validation of others would satisfy what my soul wants. Well, why do you think that? So I think being honest about your current whys is, well, why do you really? I mean, I'll say this: there have been people that I've been friends with before, and the real why behind the relationship is I want the status that relationship can give me. And the more that I'm honest about the fact that I don't care that much about that person, I care about what they can bring me, the more it shines light on the fact that's I'm eliminating that. The more it shows me that I don't need to pursue that relationship. And it kind of like, almost like by process of elimination, it's like, well, that's not the answer.
Brilliant.
That's not the answer. I'm being so I'm going to stop wasting my time trying to pursue things based on obviously false whys. But you can't do that unless you're willing to be honest. I have to be able to say to myself, all right, Chris, you're frustrated that this relationship with that person isn't working. That's your how and your what. You're trying to pursue that relationship with that individual. But let's go back to why. Why do you really want to pursue that relationship? Because I feel like it's going to look cool. Because I feel like that person can give me significance. Okay. Do you really think that?
Yeah.
No. Well, stop pursuing the relationship then. Process of elimination.
That's brilliant.
And, I just had an interesting thought too, whereas the how and the what you're doing, there's kind of a success failure verdict in the how and the what to some extent. Like, how you're doing something, it might fail. And that just means, it doesn't mean you're a failure. It means what you tried failed and you need to try something different. But I want to know what you guys think. Is there a pass or fail for your why? Regardless of the how you're doing something, regardless of what you're doing, is your why, is that kind of just is?
Is there a pass fail for your why?
Is there ever a pass fail for the why?
So almost like my why isn't working. Like I'm pursuing a why right now that's not working, or
possibly.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Possibly, yeah. Well, if you have a why, let's say your why to go into business is to help teenagers in your city, or whatever your why may be. And so what you're doing is you're going into school and you're going to lunch in schools once a week or something. Sure. That's the how and the what. Okay. Let's say no one wants to sit with you as you go into these schools. This is actually not a true story, but anyway. It's not like a true story for me at all.
Have lunch
Sounds like
I'll
middle
have lunch
school
with you,
every day.
If you
guys,
want me to have lunch with you, I'll have lunch.
We're going to lunch after this. But no, yeah, just trying to come up with an example here.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means your why failed at all.
I got you.
Just means your how or your what failed. But some people will be compelled, if that's their why or whatever their why is, they'll be compelled, well, my why just failed, so I need to find a different why, right? Okay. So it is, and maybe there are bad whys, There could be bad whys. Well, I want to do it because I want to be famous. That's probably not a great why. And to that level, though, I thought when you mentioned something along those lines of being famous, I thought a service that you preached a while back, and the word leverage just came to mind. You talk about leverage. If you become well known, you become popular in school or whatever that looks like, leverage. What can you leverage that to for some other result, right? To accomplish a different why, a deeper why.
Yeah. I would definitely say, and if you want to go first?
You hit it. bro.
Okay. I would definitely say one thing. I think that the more you find, if we're talking about your why, I almost feel like that you can't escape that. Like, I don't know. I think that when you really get down to a level like this is what you were actually created for, I almost think that that's so much a part of you that you could almost no more not do that than you could, be the color of skin that you are. So what I will say though is that everything should always be up for conversation. Like I think that in the same way that our bodies have a way of letting us know when something's not working, I think a lot of times we know. I will say there's a lot. You have to be able to persevere. Like your why, as you're pursuing your why. I mean, you're gonna fail a lot, no question about it. So don't hear me wrong with that. But sometimes I think a lot of the answers that I need come the more that I'm willing to be alone with God, the more that I'm willing to put everything on the table with people that will speak truth to me. And I think sometimes I'm clinging to something too tightly. I think you have to have your hands open when it comes to this kind of thing and be willing to say like, hey, I don't know. Be willing to say, hey, I don't know if this is working. Be willing to let things go. Be willing to let go something good for something better. And I think that when you really key in on something, when you really find something that's so true to you, you almost hit like an irreducible spot where it's like, okay, like that's as far down as this goes. But you have in order to get through a lot of the good stuff, you've got to, and to the great stuff, you've got to be willing to say no and let go of a lot of good to get to something great, which is hard because you find something good that may not be like a true why for you, but it's an okay one. And it may not be bad. But are you willing to look at things that are good in your life and be willing to say, I don't know if this is the best? And be willing to have that conversation, which can be hard, which can be really hard because sometimes you have to say goodbye to decent relationships in order to find great ones that connect to your true why. Sometimes you have to say no to decent jobs, decent opportunities, good stuff, things that add value in order to find what's great. And I think that's what separates the men from the boys on this, is you have to be willing to sometimes kill and let go of good to get great. And that's hard.
Yep. And I was just going to say that, phrase it this way. Every discovery of an early why is a pathway to the ultimate why.
That's a key point.
Each one.
So it's not just you hit 30 or 40 and now you have the one why of your life and then that's it, but it's discovering things along the way, in other words.
Absolutely. Your why in middle school is going to be a hint of what your why will, or a certain path to what your why will become.
At the time, it might feel more than like a hint.
Oh,
though,
sure.
Right?
She's sitting
Looking
over there.
backwards, it seems like a hint.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, absolutely. But we, as people, I will look at it and go, it's my why. If I don't do that, I'm dead. And we're like 22.
Right. And I don't know if this is a guy thing, but there's some part of me that feels like I need to be the finished product all the time. Like, look at me physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Don't get no better than this, baby.
If you're wondering what the ideal,
absolutely
if you're wondering what the ideal human looks like, look no further. And it's like getting to a point where you have more of a growth mentality, because and honestly. And those are the voices you should pay attention to. Like, to me, the credible authors out there are the credible voices out there are the ones that are saying, listen, I'm not at the top of the mountain. I'm moving. Here's some field notes for you. And if they work for you, great. But if not, feel free to disregard them. But for me, the tendency, and I'll just say this, as a pastor, as a dude, it's to say, like, I don't know. There's something, I don't even know why, but there's some part of me that doesn't want to keep growing. There's some part of me that just wants to be done discovering new and better, just because, I don't know, I get tired, I get fatigued, pride, I mean, whatever it is, I mean, I just get tired sometimes of growing, so I'm like,
I thought pastors were Energized buddies, man.
Oh,
I thought they get the pastoral degree and then
man.
they start pastoring and then they're like done, they're finished. Finito.
That's all we do.
and it feels good for a minute, because when people treat you like you're the finished product, it feels, I don't know why that is, but it's like you've got to embrace a growth mentality with this, because you're right. You know, you get hints along the way. Like people always say, it's the journey, it's not the destination. And what it's so cliche to say, but golly, you've got to embrace that mentality.
Yeah.
With whys.
You're
with all
saying
the stuff.
cliche but true.
Cliche but true.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
Cliche but true.
But true. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know, there's not much to add to that because that's exactly right. And bouncing back at that idea, if there is a failure rate to your why, he said it. Let me reiterate it. You've got to be okay with that failure over and over again to discover.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, you need a why bouncer. You need someone who is there to.
It's like a big tough guy.
Yeah, you need a big tough guy in your life. You know, if you have if you have yes people all in your life, which is pretty much, I would probably say most of your friends are your yes people. You might have one or two that say no every once in a while. So I wouldn't say it's your friends, but it's probably that dude. You're not really sure if they do the same thing you do, and you just, whatever, and you pop it in their sphere of influence and say, hey, what do you think about this? He might correct some of your what and help you there, but he's going to bounce some of that why back to you and go,
man. That's a great point.
That's probably not it. I like your heart. That's a cool hint. And if he's a good leader, I would say he's a leader or something. He's gonna excavate what Chris is saying.
Yes.
Go to the bottom.
Yes.
And he's gonna excavate based on questions, not on answers.
Right.
Exactly.
He's not gonna tell you what to do. He's gonna give you questions so you discover it. If you never have that person questioning, you probably won't get down to the bottom and discover it.
And we also live in a culture that celebrates, a growth chart that's up and to the right. I mean, we have to really redefine what we see as working and not working, because our culture, we want bigger, we want better, we want success. We hate the idea of internal work, of growth, of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
We hate the idea of the guy, to go cliche, we hate the idea of the guy that gets sent to win a missionary tribe to Christ, doesn't see a single convert, but the whole village is converted at his funeral. We pay lip service, admiration to those stories, but we hate him because that guy's a loser in our book. Yeah. That guy's a loser in our culture, but he found his why, but it's not working. And that's where you have to have a connection to a higher source, because if you look for validation from your why, from people around you and all that, I mean, good grief. I mean, we celebrate big. We celebrate lots of followers on social media. We celebrate lots of money. We celebrate good looks. We celebrate wins. You've got to redefine success if you're going to embrace this journey, because it's just going to look so different for people. And there's so many people that are going to tell you, probably as you're finding your why, there's going to be so many. The thing is that nobody ever found your specific why before. So the path to your why is not, nobody's ever walked it before. There's no book about your why. So as it's going to feel weird as you're finding it, because it's not going to look like anybody else's book. It's not going to look like anybody else's thing. It's going to be, so you're going to feel like this doesn't even feel right. This feels weird. And there's probably going to be people in your life saying, yeah, that's weird. Like, don't do that. But that may be the exact sign or key that you're actually moving in the right direction. Sure. It actually feeling weird, and the path is overgrown. There's thickets, there's trees, and that's actually the indication you might be starting to you might be starting to move in the direction of your real why. It's just.
That's key. I love that. Well, I want to kind of summarize some of the points that I'm getting. I want you guys to correct me, and then I want to know final thoughts on the why, and especially speaking life into the listener's why, even if they have no earthly idea at this point. And it may change. That's one takeaway I'm getting, man, that your why can change. It can morph. It can evolve. Your why kind of grows as you grow is one thing that I'm hearing. Yes. Honesty is a huge thing. Just being honest with yourself and being okay with yourself. Yeah. Don't try to follow other people's why. Other people may have great whys though. So you may want, it's not bad to follow good people. Mm-hmm. We're not saying that either. But so maybe final thoughts from the book, or just final life that you want to give. And maybe I'll just say the final words. So I want to hear you guys though. I've taken up enough time here. Final thoughts, speaking life into other people's why.
No, this is such a it would absolutely be the reason that this book resonates so much with me, and I unfortunately read it, a couple months ago. But really the why is, which we pair every second of the day with, is purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's searching for that purpose, because if I can find the purpose, I become full, whole, altogether. And so for me, kind of pinpointing and saying, okay, again, who am I? Am I okay with that? And then how can I now utilize who I am in this culture that I'm in, the job I'm in the whatever solution, whatever it is, here I am. And I would say out of that, as it is the call of us to help people discover that for us as not just pastors, but everybody, everyone, if you're one deviation off an age, you're called to raise up someone else to help them discover that. The more, if we had everyone, like the book talks about, if we had everyone who had the job that they loved and they found joy, I mean, we'd have like an insane, amazing culture, right? It'd be crazy.
Yeah.
But 80% of people hate their job. So anyway, so everybody's supposed to do that. So I'll conclude with this thought, is that when you just said it too, is you don't know your why yet. Find someone who has an idea of what theirs is and start to talk to them. Work it out. Why did you discover it this way? How did you do this? What is about this? Now, you'll probably pick up some of that why onto you, but as we think, there's divine relationships that happen, and there are certain people out there that can help you truly discover that. And they don't need to be mentors. I think mentors are pivotal. They don't need to be.
Well, most mentoring is done in a role where you don't actually call each other mentors.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little conversation between, a dad and a son. It's a little conversation between your guy and the, whatever there. Like, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, tell me about this. Or how'd you discover that? I've seen so many people on this podcast that you've brought on, and I could see and picture in my head who on that who knows their why. And you could probably say it too, like that person knows their why. Like I'd say Emily Hoisington knows her why.
Yeah.
And she's not budging from it. So it's like, talk to people that just think that, they're crafting it over time. But ask, and it'll help you discover what that why is and who you are. And, again, ultimately bring purpose and belonging into your life.
Love it.
I love you.
Good, you can buy me lunch afterwards.
I don't want to ruin this moment that you guys
It's cute
have.
romance going on.
I love you too, Chris.
Thanks.
Chris, what you got, man? What you got for us?
My experience has been you got to take your sword out on this one. Like this is going to be a battle. Like I would love to.
It's good.
I mean, as we talk about some of the things about honesty, as we talk about, you're gonna have to fight for this. And I think that I wish I could say that, I've followed this formulaic equation, but as I get closer to my why, it's calling me on a journey that I would not have picked for myself. And as I take in each individual step, it's causing me to answer questions, go to places in my past, form relationships, move at times. It's caused a lot of discomfort. So what I would say is that it's worth the struggle. I would say
so
you're gonna have to fight, and there's gonna be a lot of. It's not the norm. So to find a clear, compelling why for you, to find the kind of purpose that we're talking about here, it's not the norm, and it's not the norm for a reason. That's right. Because you don't drift into it. It's not what's natural around you. The majority of the relationships around you probably, and it's going to cause some tough choices. It's going to cause you to walk a road that you probably wouldn't have picked for yourself, but it's worth the struggle. The world needs your why, and it just but take the sword out. It's going to be a fight.
You don't drift
Love
into
it.
your
Yeah, hang on. Wait. Crap, did you say you don't drift into your why?
Something like that.
Can we rephrase?
Don't.
Did he really say that? Crap.
That is worth 60 minutes right there.
But Chris, it's so much more convenient if you drift into your why.
Yeah, isn't it?
Can you?
I would agree.
All right. Well,
I'll write
can
a
we
message.
pay you? We're gonna edit that. We're gonna have to change that. That's too. Can't drift into your why. Man,
So good.
that's solid. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on, man. I know you guys are busy. You
Kyle,
got the young
thank you.
kids.
It's awesome.
Chris
man.
Russo, you got a birthday party? Not yours, I don't think. It's
No,
not
not
yours,
mine.
right?
No,
Okay.
no. 35. I'm not going to 36 for a while.
You're not gonna have any more birthday parties ever.
No, I'm gonna go 34. I'm gonna start working backwards now. So
35 going on 34.
yeah.
That's good.
Dude, appreciate you guys, man. Looking forward
you,
to
brother.
seeing all the influence that you guys have with young people, with people in general, with the church. Seeing where you guys go, man. Seeing where your paintings go.
Yeah.
Dude, we might see. Everyone's gonna be clamoring. Popadich's paint. Popadich's boats.
Boom.
Boat day pop. Boat day pop.
That's right. Boat day Picasso. Picasso and then
Someday
my
you
boat.
might
There's
actually
Picasso
get
and
on
there's
a boat
Popadich.
too.
Yeah, one day you might actually step foot on a boat.
Yeah, you know what?
Or
I'm
see a
not,
boat,
I'm
for
not
that
overly
matter.
compelled to do it. I'm just like,
I think you should.
You're too busy
Why not?
painting
Learn-
boats.
Take up sailing.
I've
That could
been-
be your
I've
why.
been on, like, yeah.
Steven, I got a great idea for you. You need to get a picture of you on a boat. You're gonna look at that picture while you're actually on a boat,
So good.
and you're gonna paint a picture of you, of a picture of you on a boat.
So good.
I just had like an inception moment. That's like a dream within it. That's like
Yes.
It was
dude.
a dream within a dream.
Yes,
Wow.
and then you're gonna be famous because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what, if we figured anything out, it's all about
My
fame.
why is so much clearer now.
We've arrived.
Excellent.
Awesome, guys. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, dude.
Well, we're actually about to record a 60-minute podcast. Does that mess up you guys' schedule too much, or a few minutes? Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
We'll just casually talk about nothing. So how is nothing, everyone? Good? Is it well?